Wow, we had a great 2024 at SpyMovieNavigator.com and our podcast show, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. We had so much fun covering spy movies that many of our listeners discovered through our podcast episodes, or just that they had never seen them before, and they went out of their way to make sure they did. This is so cool. Hi, this is Dan.
And Tom.
From SpyMovieNavigator.com and our podcast show, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies.
You know, as we've often told you, our simple goal is that when you listen to our podcast, you will enhance your viewing experience of any movie we cover. You'll discover something new in every episode.
Yeah. First of all, Happy New Year to everyone. Tom and I are honored that you listen to our show and engage with us through our social media outlets. Thanks. We appreciate that tremendously.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
And before we start, we're going to give some shout outs because we love when our listeners give us feedback on our podcast episodes. So we're going to give some big shout outs here to some folks who just recently gave us some comments about our show. So a big shout out to Stephen James Malia, who said, "Your chat with Robert Davi sounds amazing." And Muttley to 2576, it's an odd last name, he said on the Hildebrand Rarity and License to Kill episode, Milton Crest, "Great episode, guys. Thoroughly enjoyed it." And we got feedback on our What Makes James Bond the Best MI6 Agent episode from Pietro Rossi, Mark Knight, and Jim Phelps. And lastly, on our Luciana Paluzzi interview just recently, we got great feedback from Lars Olafsson and Pietro Rossi. Again, thank you all for taking the time to listen, enjoy, and give us feedback.
Yeah, and what I really like about that, Dan, is we're getting feedback on episodes we did a while ago. So people are going through the catalog, finding podcast episodes to listen to, and then providing feedback, which is so great.
Yeah, what we have 280
280
episodes.
This is our 288th episode.
Oh my God. That's unbelievable. All right. And it's all because you folks out there listen all over the world. Thank you.
Yeah, we wouldn't be doing that if you weren't there.
Yeah. All right, so let's look back a bit. In 2024, we got to continue some unique things in our treatment of spy movies, like character spotlights, which we began in 2023.
Yeah, so we started these in 2023 with a character spotlight on Quarrel from Dr. No, who was played brilliantly by John Kitzmiller.
Yeah.
This was our first, and in it we covered, analyzed, and decoded every scene that Quarrel was in. And at the end, we gave a brief synopsis of John Kitzmiller's career and life.
Everybody loved this episode. It was so popular that we did another one on Rosa Klebb from Russia with Love. And she was played, of course, by the wonderful actor Lotte Lenya. Now, we dove into every scene, facial expression, body motion, and more, and gave a summary of her career and life, too, as well at the end. It was, again, a very, very popular episode.
All right, and again in 2024, we added our third character spotlight on a great Goldfinger character, Oddjob, played, of course, by Harold Sakata.
Yeah. Again, we went through every scene that Oddjob appears in and decoded in detail all of his actions, facial expressions, body movements, and grunts. Yeah. Again, extremely popular episode. It was fun.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And we have another one ready to go to kick off 2025.
Yeah, can't wait. Our first one for 2025, as you mentioned, will be on Fiona Volpe from Thunderball, played magnificently by Luciana Paluzzi, who we just interviewed. She's a fabulous actor and was absolute perfection in Thunderball.
Oh, she was so great to talk to. Now, Dan, in putting these character spotlight episodes together, it's a complex process, and it takes a long time, so we don't get them out, every month. You don't see one.
Yeah.
But we've gotten some great feedback from our listeners on these.
Yes, we did. Now, here are a few comments that we received, actually, on some of these character spotlights. And again, we love hearing feedback. This one was on the Quarrel character spotlight and Dr. No. Great analysis. Love that you mentioned the moment when Quarrel searches Bond and gives him a triumphant look. One of Kitzmiller's best acting choices, in my opinion. That was from Christian Siebman. Here's another one. Another outstanding analysis from the world of 007. Tip a red stripe on another job well done. From
nice
Morgan
reference
Lindsay.
there, Morgan. I love it. Tip a red stripe.
Yeah, thank you, Morgan. If this is the standard quality of your character profile series, I'm looking forward to your next subject. Your podcast combines information on both the fictional character of Quarrel and the actor John Kitzmiller, informative and entertaining. Pietro Rossi. Thank you, Pietro.
Pietro always gives us great feedback, and he puts
Yes.
stuff behind it. It's not always just, oh, that was great. He gives you something about it, which if more people could do that, that would make our show better.
Yeah. And on our character spotlight for Odd Job, William Canis said, hey, it was great, very informative, and there were quite a few things which I did not know before. That's pretty cool. Thanks, Bill. In general, people have liked our podcast show. Here's some recent feedback, and we love feedback again. Please let it keep coming.
Yes, please keep that feedback coming.
All right, here's one. I keep playing the podcasts. I enjoy them very much. Carl Epler. Thank you, Carl. I'm a faithful listener since your debut. Kevin Bernard Collette. Thank you, Kevin.
Right, Kevin. That's 288 episodes with this one. That's awesome.
There you go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Spy Movie Navigator, cracking the code of spy movies. It's the most insightful spy movie podcast you'll ever hear. Andy James Barclay. Thank you, Andy. That's fantastic. Here's another guy. You know, we put our podcasts out on Tuesdays. So here's one from Jim Phelps. Tuesday is either my yard work day or a long bike ride. In any case, you guys are in my ear praising the word of spies. Well done. Don't change a damn thing, Jim Phelps.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank
I
you.
want to know what climate he's in, that he didn't have it shoveling snow in that list.
Yeah, he's in England. All right. Great memories, interviews, podcasts, and pictures from the classic and beyond Bond era. Michael Fox, thank you. Here's from Anthony Epp, a very simple, love these guys. Thank you, Anthony. All right.
Thank you, Anthony, and for everybody who provides us feedback.
Yeah.
Right, so Dan, let's switch gears a bit. You know that I like numbers. So during the year 2024, we decoded 23 spy movies and did 17 no-spoiler first-look reviews on just-released movies.
Wow.
And we do that so our listeners can get a heads up. We give you an idea of whether the movie's going to be good or not, in our opinion, whether we think it's worth your time, and we keep it no spoiler.
Yeah.
Right. So that's 40 spy movies covered, and it was a lot of fun decoding these movies.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing, actually, when you go look back. When we're doing it, we're just doing it. We're rolling. We're not counting. Now you look back and go, wow, that's quite a bit. And that's not all we did, right? We did so many fun interviews and special episodes, too. Some of our absolutely fun interviews this past year were one of my favorites, Chris Corbold. Wow. Yeah. We interviewed Chris Corbold, the special effects mastermind. In person, too, we interviewed him at the 007 Science Inventing the World of James Bond exhibit in Chicago. Chris Corbold has worked on 15 James Bond movies, also the Dark Knight trilogy, 2 Superman movies, and he won an Academy Award for his work on the movie Inception. Chiefly, his specialty has been visual effects, leading the team on many of these movies. This was such a thrill, just for Bond, The Living Daylights, GoldenEye, Spectre, No Time to Die, and tons more. Chris is one of the best in the world. What fun we had chatting with him, and he was such a pleasant, humble, and great guy. Oh. So fun to see him in person and talk to him. Oh
he really was. And like with the way that exhibit was set up and the way we worked it, we were able to walk over to the sled from The Living Daylights. They had it there in the exhibit.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite James Bond gadgets because it's a cello case that they adapted to become a gadget. And I love when they do that.
Yeah.
And Chris told us the great backstory on the creation of that sled.
Yep.
Now, also, if you're a Batman movie fan, we talked to him about some of the scenes he filmed in Chicago and how they did some of them. And that was pretty cool, too.
Yeah, you got to listen to that episode. It's fantastic. He was such a thrill.
We also have that on video on our YouTube channel.
Yeah. We also got to speak in person with Meg Simmons, who is the archive director for Ian Productions. Yeah.
Tough job, huh?
She's responsible for deciding which artifacts and props that they will save, loan out for exhibit, and more. Wow. That was part of our 007 Science Inventing the World of James Bond podcast episode. So check that one out, too. But she was also a thrill. And we actually interrupted her lunch to interview her, and she was so pleasant. He said, "Yeah, no problem. I can do that later."
Yeah, she was
cool.
she was great. And you think about the job she's got. We've talked to many collectors, but she gets to manage one of the best James Bond collections ever and decide what they get to keep, what they won't make available to somebody else to get, which is kind of cool. Now, you mentioned this exhibit, right? It's a great exhibit, and it's been extended into the spring of 2025 at the Griffin Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. We think any James Bond fan will enjoy this exhibit. It's not just the sled. There's cars. There's interactive stuff for you to work on to enhance your spy capabilities. So it's a fun exhibit, and we recommend you go.
Yeah. There's dozens and dozens of props that were actually in the movies, and I think 13 vehicles there as well. And a lot of them were loaned out by the Ian Fleming Foundation, the guys we know who own 43 James Bond vehicles that have appeared in movies. We also had a unique experience interviewing Maestro John Morris Russell from the Cincinnati Pops Orchestra. Why? Because he came to Chicago to direct the Chicago Symphony Orchestra for an evening of James Bond music. We interviewed him a few weeks before the event. We went to the event and got to meet him backstage after the show. That was so fun. We did that interview with Raymond Benson, too, as part of our team. So that was great moment.
It really was. And if you ever want to see somebody with a lot of energy, watch the video we put out on this interview. John's got a lot of energy. He's a lot of fun. And again, thank you, Raymond Benson, because you helped us out, especially from the music perspective, which is one of Raymond's fortes.
Yeah, great. You all know Raymond, of course. He's one of the James Bond official authors who authored 6 James Bond novels and 3 novelizations. All right, we also spoke with Steve Oxenreider. He was one of the biggest James Bond collectors in the world, and we spoke to him about his collection and the auctions that he was doing of his collection. Sadly, he passed away a few months later after we spoke with him. But
yeah, he was a nice guy, and it was sad to see that he passed.
Yeah.
Now, one of our all-time favorite interviews, Luciana Paluzzi, who played Fiona Volpe in Thunderball.
Yes. She was such a delight and told us afterwards that I get a kick out of this. She told us afterwards, "You were a lot more fun to talk to than I thought." Well, she's Italian, obviously. She was born in Italy. Tom and I were both Italian. We have family from Italy. And so we spoke to her about that as well. And so she was a thrill. She was a darling, really. She was just a delight to speak with. And she was fantastic in Thunderball. So it was just a fun interview. You have to listen to that. She tells some stories that she hadn't told before in other interviews. So check that one out.
Yeah, that was fun. And I like how she called out our obsession to spy movies. Let's take a listen to that.
I think you're analyzing these two obsessions.
All right. We also did a live James Bond meetup event in Chicago at our local pub, and we had a bunch of fun James Bond fans show up, including Ross Sharphorn, who was in from California. We did live interviews with some of the fans and ran a James Bond International trivia quiz live from the bar. And also we had some people from the Ian Fleming Foundation there as well. So that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool. Now, we had a great Zoom session with James Bond Club Ireland, too, this year, and we talked with their group about their focus and a bunch of James Bond topics. So that was great fun. It's on our YouTube channel as well, and it's an audio podcast as well. So check that one out, too. That was great.
One thing I liked about that episode that I think if you're somebody who is thinking, hey, I'd love to start a James Bond club and I have no idea how to start, they talked about how they started their group and what worked for them in getting things up and running. So it's a good learning experience, too, and give you some ideas if you're thinking, hey, let's do one locally.
Yeah. Hey, and we all have pet peeves, right? And spy movie fans have a bunch of pet peeves. We did an episode on pet peeves of spy movie fans with some of our Facebook private group members. That was awesome and a totally fun episode and very informative, too, because these guys had some great pet peeves. And it's not just that we don't have a James Bond movie out yet.
Yeah. Now, another P word here. Do you want to know if James Bond's a psychopath? Well, we interviewed psychiatrist Stephen McWilliams from Dublin, who wrote the book on it. Yeah. It was a fascinating discussion with Dr. McWilliams. And if you like that discussion, check out his book, Psychopath, Why We Are Charmed by the Anti-Hero. It covers many more characters than Bond. It includes Hannibal Lecter, Tom Ripley, and more.
Yeah, it's a terrific book, and that was a great discussion. He went through things in clear language that everyone can understand, which I like. All right, let's talk Hitchcock. We've decoded about 7 Alfred Hitchcock spy movies, and this past year we interviewed Tony Lee Morrell, who has written 4 books on Hitchcock. This interview was on the book Alfred Hitchcock: The Storyboards, and it's really an eye-opener. That's a fun interview. Listen to that one, Tony Lee Morrell. Great author, too.
It was really cool because for me, it gave me an understanding of how Hitchcock used storyboards in such great detail. Also, we know that his technique has been used by a great number of directors since, which showed us the impact that Hitchcock had on the movie industry. Plus, if you look at Tony's book, he's got some great pictures of those storyboards.
Yeah, the storyboards are fantastic. And actually, if you go to the exhibit in Chicago that we talked about, they have some Goldfinger storyboards there. And when you look at that and you look at the movie and you think, and this is what you get from Tony's book as well, you think, man, they lifted this from the pages and put it on the screen. That's how magical it is. It was great stuff. Good stuff. And hey, we did a lot of other episodes too on gadgets in various spy movies. That's one of our focuses. And special one-off episodes like a George Lazenby retirement salute, which was tremendously popular. You know, he retired this last year. His agent, Anders Freyd, listened to our episode and loved it. And George Lazenby himself clicked a love on our posts for it as well. So we love that George took the time to do that. We love that his agent, Anders Freyd, loved the episode on it as well. And George is a great guy. We love George. We would have loved to have him on our show sometime. He's not doing anything else. Not doing interviews, not doing appearances anymore. But that was a fun one.
Yep, that absolutely was. We also did a special episode on why the next James Bond actor doesn't matter.
Right.
Now, so we defended several James Bond movies as well. We defended Denise Richards. We talked about how James Bond is going to go into the public domain.
Yeah.
And we've influenced other podcasters with our work as well.
Yeah. You mentioned our defending Denise Richards in, of course, The World Is Not Enough. David Zarisky listened to that episode and he said, I loved it. So thank you, David. I love that too. Love hearing from you.
Yep.
And it was great meeting you. We released lots of specialty podcast episodes on all kinds of spy movie topics. How to build a spy movie, building the next James Bond, and lots more. We mentioned earlier in this episode that we covered 40 spy movies in 2024. We're the only ones, I think, in this space that we know of, at least, that did a detailed dive into a 1928 silent spy movie, Spione, which influenced so many spy movies to come.
Absolutely, it did. And Dan, we also did episodes on the TV series Hogan's Heroes and the movies 3 Days of the Condor, Eye of the Needle, which was extremely popular, Undercover Grandpa, Hitchcock's Topaz, Argyle, which in my opinion was a terrible movie, Five Fingers with James Mason. You got to look at the right Five Fingers. There's a couple of things out there called that, but the one with James Mason, Spy Hunt, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, The Heroes of Telemark, and that's just naming a few of them.
Yeah. Some of these movies were real discoveries and so much fun to bring to light, like Spy Hunt. We just had somebody in our private group on Facebook talk about Spy Hunt, and he went and listened to our episodes because he had just discovered that movie, and he loved our episode. He said, yeah, it really helped him see more in the movie. Spy Hunt was put out in 1950. It's a great name for this movie, as we, the viewers, are constantly wondering who is on what side and who is a spy. And it's based on a book called Panther's Moon by Victor Canning. And there's also a hunt going on with animals. It's a Cold War espionage movie that grabs you from the start. Fun one.
Well, one thing I like about this movie, Dan, is that it's one of the few spy movies where you and I absolutely disagreed. Right? Mm-hmm. You liked it way more than I did.
Yeah.
And so listen to the episode to find out why. What did we differ on it?
Yeah. You'll find out I'm right.
Yeah, a lot of times we're in agreement, but not always. And this is one we weren't in agreement on.
Correct.
The next episode to highlight was the one we did on Five Fingers. Right? It's a 1952 American spy film directed by Joseph Mankiewicz and starring the fabulous, amazing James Mason.
Yeah.
Danielle Darieux and Michael Rene were in it as well. The film is based on the true story of Albanian-born Valicia Bosna, who worked as a valet for the British ambassador to Turkey during World War II. And of course, he became a Nazi spy. Now, I really enjoyed this movie. And for me, the last 10 seconds after the whole setup of the movie,
Yeah.
the look on James Mason's face in the last 10 seconds of the movie make it a classic for me.
Yeah, James Mason portrays the character of Ulysses Diallo, based on Bosna, as you mentioned, who sells secrets to the Germans during the war by photographing top secret documents. This was a fun one to do because it is so damn good.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Now we do one on Hogan's Heroes. We mentioned it. This was a Hogan's Heroes was a sitcom in a World War II prisoner of war camp setting run by the Nazis. Of course, the show was on American television and ran 168 episodes, 6 seasons from September.
Hey, Dan, they only did 168 episodes. We're on our 288th.
Yeah, I know. We beat Hogan's Heroes. Damn, we're good. We did it in 5 years. That's good. All right. That ran from September 1965 to April 1971. That's a pretty darn good run for any sitcom. Now, Hogan's Heroes may seem like an unlikely candidate for a spy show, but it cleverly walks the fence between utter absurdity and farce, and on the other side, covert operations. In its own quirky way, it is a spy show, and we watched 168 episodes to prove it. That was a fun one to do. We got some great clips from the shows, too, in that episode.
That was a lot of watching, I got to say that.
I know nothing.
Now, one thing, you mentioned that this is a little bit different. And for us, it's very different because up until now, we've pretty much just covered spy movies or some of the short Netflix type series, Apple series, whatever, that are spy based. So this was an old TV series. It was a lot of episodes. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. If there are more spy series that you want us to decode like this, please let us know.
Yeah, let us know. All right. Let's look at another great movie we mentioned before that we did, Eye of the Needle. This was a great one, right? In Eye of the Needle, a part of the diversion and deception of the invasion of Normandy was the part that the Ghost Army played in this invasion. That's the part of the army that focused on confusing the enemy's mind, especially in the area of troop and equipment movement. We spoke with Rick Baer in that Operation Bodyguard episode that we did about this, and he wrote the book, by the way, The Ghost Army of World War II, and how this top secret unit deceived the enemy with inflatable tanks, sound effects, and other audacious fakery. That was a fun one. So all of this is part of this Eye of the Needle thing, too.
Yeah, and the episode we did talking to Rick, to me, was one of the more educational ones we've had. I didn't know how much deception really was used in wars. I mean, I knew it was there, but had no idea it was this much.
Yeah.
Plus,
it's a good one.
If you listen to the interview with Rick Baer first, he talks about a deception that is shown in the movie Eye of the Needle. Yeah. So if you listen to his description of how that stuff works, and then you see that scene in Eye of the Needle, it's like, wow, that's exactly what he was talking about.
Yeah. So check that episode out.
There's two different episodes here we're talking about. Mm-hmm. We have one called Operation Bodyguard and one on the movie Eye of the Needle. Watch Operation Bodyguard first.
Yeah, that's the one with Rick.
Yes.
All right. Now, Eye of the Needle deals with the German spy, Faber, played fantastically by Donald Sutherland, who discovers some of this diversion, and in particular how fake wooden planes and other equipment and troops were being used to fool the Germans into thinking that the invasion would take place at some other location than Normandy, like Pas-de-Calais or some other coast. This is a great one. You got to see that movie, but listen to our episode because we dig into lots of great details that you'll see in the movie that will enhance your viewing.
So when you see stuff in the movie, you know the background behind it, which is really nice. Yeah. Now, another movie that Dan and I disagreed a bit on is The Heroes of Telemark. This is a 1965 spy movie starring Kirk Douglas, Richard Harris, and Ulla Jacobson. It's based on a group of related real missions from World War II. And we see the unfolding of the attempt by the Allies to thwart the Nazi development of an atomic bomb.
Yeah.
And the focus was to prevent the Nazis from producing enough heavy water to use on their atomic bomb project. The movie was fairly well done. I think it was fun to watch, but there's some stuff in there that kind of distracted me from what the goal of the movie was.
There always is some of that when they based it on a true story, they always enhance it with stuff that wasn't in the true story. But it's still a great movie, I thought.
Well, yeah, again, I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is Arabesque, which is a
Yeah.
1966 movie starring Gregory Peck, Sophia Loren, and Alan Badell.
Yeah. Well, that's good enough right there.
Yeah, you really don't need to say much more than that. In this thing, we see car chases, cranes used by weapons, zoo animals, broken fish tanks, a drug-induced escape, a very devious villain. Let's see, an Arab prime minister, a very beautiful spy, or is she?
Yeah.
Truth serum, and more. Very, very fun movie, and I enjoyed doing that episode.
All right. And we mentioned Spione, the 1928 silent spy movie. The first, it probably was maybe the first spy movie. Where did today's spy movies get their start? Well, we have to look no further than Fritz Lang's wonderful 1928 silent movie, the spy thriller Spione. While we've traditionally focused on movies released after the silent movie era, we wanted to do this one. Spione even predates the Hitchcock spy thrillers from the 1930s. The Man Who Knew Too Much, The 39 Steps, all of those. It predates all of these. And again, we have episodes on all of the Hitchcock movies as well, but Spione is different, right then?
Oh, it absolutely is. Because this isn't a spy loyal to his or her country.
Right.
He's just a megalomaniac after some papers about a treaty with Japan. I mean, this sounds like a MacGuffin to us, and maybe a first MacGuffin in a spy movie.
Yeah, that's true. And by covering the 1928 movie, we really discovered lots of connections to future spy movies. So that was very cool to see. And we bring a lot of that out in the episode.
Yeah. Now, Dan, I know how you love silent movies.
Yeah.
I mean, I like them way more than you do. But to me, Fritz Lang's Spione set the table for all the non-war spy movies to come. Because before Spione, spy movies were focused on war spying.
That's true.
Think of when the movies came out, so it was a natural fit, because it was, movies themselves didn't really come out until around the war times. So as we discussed in our episode on it, this is the first non-war spy movie that we know of. You mentioned earlier connections to future spy movies.
Yeah.
And in almost every spy movie to come after Spione, we see something that was influenced by Spione. So to me, if you're a spy movie fan, you must watch this movie. You can find it on YouTube. It's in black and white. It's a silent movie. It has subtitles. So it's not going to be your normal movie experience if you don't watch a lot of the silent movies. Dan, I think you said you had to watch it in 2 bites, right? You had to watch half of it and then watch the other half. It's a longer movie. And if you're not used to the silent movies, it may take a little bit of getting used to, but watch it if you're a spy movie fan, because you're going to learn and see stuff that you're going to see throughout almost every spy movie you see after that.
Yeah, so that was a great discovery in 2024 for us. Yeah. We feel that by covering lots of classic spy movies as well as current movies, that our listeners will discover new spy movies to watch, and by listening to our podcast, will enhance their viewing experience when they watch or even rewatch a spy movie that we cover. That's the goal again.
So please help us by telling us what spy movies you'd like us to decode. Send us a message on Facebook or an email to info@spymovienavigator.com. You can help us deliver what you want to hear.
Yeah, we've had tons of comments from listeners about what they liked and more, and that helps us build better episodes. And we will give you a shout out in an episode if you provide feedback for us. So let us have it, good or bad. We want to continue to build and improve our podcast show, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies.
All right, now, Dan, we didn't just do podcast episodes. We also rebuilt our website, spymovienavigator.com, again this year.
Yeah.
So now on our site, did you know you can do James Bond research?
Yeah, we have Stephen J. Rubin's book, The James Bond Movie Encyclopedia, completely digitized on our website, and you could search for James Bond topics and answers. We have an exclusive agreement with Steve and his book publisher to do this, so it's very, very cool. You could find tons of things there.
This book you just mentioned, the James Bond Movie Encyclopedia, is definitely one of those books you want to have a copy on in your library as well. It's one thing to search something online, but it's a great book to read through as well.
Yeah, he's got great photos in there and so on. It's a wonderful book. You can get it virtually anywhere. All right.
So, of course, besides going to YouTube or your favorite podcast app, you can listen to all of our podcast episodes and watch our YouTube videos on our website as well.
Yeah, and you can take a James Bond quiz online on our website and a spy movie quiz as well. So, you ever going to be doing James Bond trivia quizzes that you might be involved in, like we do sometimes? Hey, you could do so. You could actually practice on our website. So check out spymovienavigator.com. You'll have fun there. We did that in 2024 as well. Rebuilt that whole thing.
And our YouTube channel is fun too. We have lots of videos there, and YouTube now hosts our podcast show as well. So if you like to listen to podcasts on YouTube, you can find all of the Cracking the Code of Spy Movies episodes there. Yeah. Now, this is a change for us because Google got rid of Google Podcasts. So now all of the podcasts just go to YouTube. So, that's where you would go to find these things if you're a YouTube user.
Yeah, it's remarkably, I'm amazed actually how many people listen to podcasts on YouTube. Really. I mean, you look at some of the things that we put out there. I mean, generally through all of the different apps and so on, people listen to our podcasts, but more and more are starting to listen on YouTube as well. All right, we also got to go to one of David Zaritsky's Gatherall events this year in New Jersey.
That was great.
Yeah, and had a lot of fun meeting David, who spoke very kindly of our work, the great Joe Darlington, Rachel Grant, and we met Alex Lamas, Cooper Ness, Mike Reyes from Cinema Blend, Morgan Lisney, a great James Bond fan who we quoted here a couple times who gave us feedback, Stuart Bassinger, Bill Canis, a great guy, and so many other James Bond and spy movie fans who have listened to our podcast show. It was so fun. Just so fun seeing all those people.
And for me, it was so great to meet our fans and James Bond fans who didn't know about us as well. I mean, this is a great community, and David's event was a great place to meet other James Bond fans from around the world. This was the one in New Jersey. He's done a couple around the world. We'll be back at the next one.
Yeah. And looking back at 2024 and earlier too, our downloads grew a little over 39%.
Wow.
Yeah. So that alone is exciting. And we had downloads from 133 countries around the world.
It just blows me away.
It's just awesome. I mean, we thank you all in a very big way for listening to our Cracking the Code of Spy Movies podcast show. It's fantastic. Thank you.
And by the way, since this is our 288th episode, you can easily find a few dozen to listen to right now.
Yeah, you can. Download them. That helps our algorithms and all these apps as well. So we appreciate you supporting us. If you have not yet subscribed to our show, please do so this year. We have over 5,500 spy movie fans from all over the world in our private Facebook group, the Worldwide Community of Spy Movie Fans. And you are engaged. It's fun. We do some special games there, too, for your group only. So join that group on our Facebook page. And we have over 22,000 followers on Facebook in general. Of course, we're on X and Instagram as well.
And so I've got a question for you. Are there any platforms we're missing? Please let us know. We want to make sure you have easy access to what we're doing.
All right. 2025 looks like a fun year as well. We'll do more character profiles, discover and decode lots more spy movies for you, do additional interviews, do another event in Chicago, bring back our James Bond online trivia game, and cover many other topics as well, like gadgets, pre-title sequences, the future of spy movies, James Bond, and a heck of a lot more.
Yeah, now don't forget, we're going to finally get probably Tom Cruise's final Mission Impossible with him playing the action spy, Ethan Hunt. They're trying to wrap everything up, so it's going to be fun to see how they do it.
And we're in our 6th year already.
Yeah, and thank you all very much. You know, sometimes when we record these, it just doesn't go right. Now, again in 2024, we added our 3rd character spotlight on a great gold character finger, Odd Job. Played, of course, by Harold Cicada.
He's a great gold character.
Nice.
He's a great gold character finger.
Oh, that's good.
A great gold character.
I'm going to leave that in. Hey, okay, so take 2 on that. Again in 2024, we added our 3rd character spotlight on a great, now I'm laughing thinking of it, on a great gold character finger, Odd Job. Played, of course, by Harold Cicada.
Wait, you said it again. You said gold character. What is wrong with you? That's hard to say. I didn't say it twice after we laughed about it.
Now, again in 2024, we added our 3rd character spotlight. I'm laughing thinking about it now. All right, and again in 2024, we added our third character spotlight on a great Goldfinger character. Odd job. So, Dan, I think that's a wrap of our 2024 show and review.
Yeah.
We thank you all for being such great fans for us and of spy movies. Keep the feedback coming, please.
Yes, indeed. Please do so. Keep listening. Keep checking out our website. All right, this has been Dan
And Tom
of SpyMovieNavigator.com and our podcast show, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. Please go review our show through your favorite app. You can help us out a lot by doing that. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you spending time with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you.